I want to start making some videos talking about particular teams and how they've played so far this season, and I've seen a lot of comments asking me to talk about this team, so that is exactly what we're going to do in today's video. We're going to talk about the Montreal Canadiens and their hot start to the season. Now, one thing that I want to touch on to just get out of the way immediately, the tweet in the thumbnail from Sid60 where he says, Montreal's the best team in the North Division. I don't think it's debatable. I don't necessarily agree with that tweet, it's just for the thumbnail. I would say it is debatable for sure when you consider how good the Maple Leafs have been. However, I do think definitely Toronto and Montreal are kind of a level above everybody else in the North Division. But anyways, before we begin, be sure to get down there in the comment section and let me know which team you guys want me to talk about next. Also, be sure to go follow my social medias like Instagram and Twitter. Links to those will be down below in the description. And I hate to be that guy, but I checked the analytics and it says about 65% of the people that watch this channel are not subscribed. So if you're a regular viewer and you have not already, be sure to hit that subscribe button. It is completely free. And now with all that out of the way, let's begin. Starting off the video, let's just take a look at where the Montreal Canadiens sit standings-wise in the North Division. They are in first place with a 7-1-2 record through 10 games, 16 points, 1 point ahead of the Toronto Maple Leafs, and they also currently sit first place overall in the entire league. And something worth noting, Montreal has actually not even played Ottawa yet. Their next 2 games come against the Senators, and I'm not saying that they're free wins because it's the NHL, anything can happen, but those are 2 games that the Canadiens should definitely win. Ottawa has not looked too great so far, to say the least. They won their first game of the season and have not won a single game since then. So that is where the Montreal Canadiens currently sit in the standings. Points wise, they are the best team in the National Hockey League at this moment. There's a lot of people that are surprised by this, some other people that aren't very surprised by this. If you watch my channel throughout the offseason, you would know that I had some pretty high expectations for the Montreal Canadiens heading into this season. I had predicted them to finish second place in the North Division. I said multiple times how much I loved the Canadiens offseason, and let's just take a look at how their big offseason additions have played so far this season. Tyler Toffoli, I mean, the guy has been lights out. He's leading the league in goals with 9, has 13 total points in 10 games. I bet he wishes he could play every game against the Canucks. If you didn't know, 8 of Tyler Toffoli's 9 goals this season have came against the Vancouver Canucks, his former team. That is just an absolutely ridiculous stat. Josh Anderson, who the Canadiens traded away Max Domi and a draft pick to bring in, a move that was heavily criticized at the time, currently has 6 goals and 8 total points in 10 games. He's playing a lot better in Montreal than Max Domi's playing in Columbus. Joel Edmondson, somebody who the Montreal Canadiens traded a draft pick for so they could get that little extra period of time to negotiate with him before free agency. They got him signed, and he's not somebody who's going to put up a lot of numbers offensively, but he still does have 3 points in 10 games. But the impressive stat when it comes to Joel Edmondson is he's currently a league-leading plus 14. Now, I know a lot of people aren't a big fan of plus minus, but I mean plus 14 in just 10 games, that is good. And now finally, Jake Allen, when the Montreal Canadiens brought him in, that was another move that was heavily criticized at the time because of how much money Montreal would have tied up between Carey Price and Jake Allen. Do you really think the Montreal Canadiens care about that right now with the way the team has been playing? Definitely not. Jake Allen has looked like a fantastic addition so far. He's got a 3-1 record with a 2.02 goals against average and a .930 save percentage. I can't stress enough just how important it is for the Montreal Canadiens to have a guy like Jake Allen who's not just a solid backup for Carey Price, he's a very good backup for Carey Price. He's somebody who can take a lot of pressure off of Price, and most importantly, he's going to take some of that workload off of Carey Price, which is something the Canadiens haven't been able to do for a long time. Just looking at these 4 players' numbers, Marc Bergevin looks like an absolute genius right now. Now granted, Jake Allen's probably not going to have a .930 save percentage for the entire season, and I'm sorry Canadiens fans, but I don't think Tyler Toffoli is going to win the Rocket Richard, but I mean, so far so good, and it's pretty crazy how big of an impact these guys have had on the team so far. Heading into the season, I won't call it a concern, but one thing that I pointed out that the Canadiens didn't have compared to some other teams in the North Division was a superstar forward, like Toronto has in Austin Matthews, like the Oilers have in McDavid and Draisaitl. However, I really think just the amount of depth that the Montreal Canadiens have makes up for them not really having like like a superstar forward. I mean, let's just take a look at some of their leading scorers so far this season. They have 9 players with 6 or more points so far, and a guy like Yoel Armia with 5 points in just 5 games. For an example, a team like the Anaheim Ducks, they don't even have a single player with 6 points yet, and like I just said, the Canadiens have 9. Luckily, the Ducks have John Gibson though. Anyways, let's now break down some of these top scorers for the Canadiens. At the top, you see defenseman Jeff Petrie, who's now 33 years old, and it seems like he just continues to get better with age. Offensively, he's been amazing this season with 13 points in 10 games, and his defensive metrics have also been fantastic. He is definitely an early season Norris Trophy candidate. Next, you have Tyler Toffoli with 13 points in 10 games. We already talked about him. The dude is just beating up on the Canucks this season. Third on the Canadiens in scoring, you have Nick Suzuki with 11 points in 10 games. I know I was just saying how Montreal didn't really have a superstar forward. Nick Suzuki, he can get to that level though, and I think he can do it sooner rather than later. Honestly, I feel like as soon as by the end of this season, Nick Suzuki could be viewed as one of the league's best two-way centermen. He is incredible. And then below Nick Suzuki, we got Jonathan Drouin. I love to see him thriving the way he has been this season. Former Halifax Moosehead. After last season, it really felt like Jonathan Drouin just may never have that big breakout offensive season that everybody has been waiting for. This could be it though. I'm really hoping he keeps it up. Below Drouin, you have Josh Anderson, who's returning to form, looks a lot like the guy who scored 27 goals in the 2018 season and doesn't look anything like the guy who had just 1 goal last season. If Josh Anderson can continue to play like this throughout the remainder of this season and the seasons following this one, I don't really think we're going to hear anybody complaining about the massive contract that he got. That entire line of himself, Drouin, and Nick Suzuki has just been fantastic. It has a little bit of everything. You got the two-way centerman in Nick Suzuki, you have the power forward, goal-scoring winger in Josh Anderson, and then the playmaking creative winger in Jonathan Drouin. Then you have Shea Weber, kind of just doing Shea Weber things, a casual 7 points in 10 games, playing nearly 24 minutes a night. The dude is a beast. Just buried Kotkaniemi. Now I know I'm not supposed to like him as a Red Wings fan because of the whole feud between Filip Zadina and Kotkaniemi. Well, it's not really a feud between those guys, it's more so a feud between the two fan bases. But I mean, Kotkaniemi has been playing the best hockey of his NHL career so far this season, and that really is a great sign considering last season was a little bit shaky for him. And then below Jesperi Kotkaniemi, you have Brendan Gallagher and Thomas Tatar with 6 points apiece. You know what you're going to get from those two guys. The amount of depth on this team is just wild. Everything seems to be clicking for the Montreal Canadiens right now. They're first place in the entire league in terms of goals for per game at 4.40. Their special teams have been decent. That is definitely something they could improve on a little bit. Their penalty kill percentage and power play percentage are both middle of the pack. They're first place in the league in terms of shots on net per game at 34.4, and they're only allowing 29.1 against. Like I said, just everything seems to be clicking for this team right now. Do I think that they are legit Stanley Cup contenders? I don't want to overreact because we're just 10 games into the season. In Montreal's case, they still got 46 games to go, and I don't mean to bash on the Vancouver Canucks or anything, but 5 of Montreal's 10 games this season have been against Vancouver, and the Canucks have looked pretty bad this season aside from the games they played against the Senators. Now, if we're just strictly basing things off of the small sample sizes that we've seen from every team so far this season, then yes, Montreal does look like a Stanley Cup contender, but it has to be in the back of our minds that this is a team that barely squeaked into the playoffs last season in a year where 24 teams made it. I think they finished 24th overall. Now, granted, when they got there, they looked really good. They upset the Penguins in the play-in round and then put up a really good fight against the Flyers. I just feel like we have to be careful and not just label the Canadiens as Stanley Cup contenders after 10 games. Maybe we can revisit this in a month or two, and if they continue to play like this, then we can start to have that conversation. However, it's definitely not too early to say that the Montreal Canadiens could win the North Division. I mean, heading into the season, we knew that was a possibility. I predicted them to finish second place. I think Craig Button of TSN actually predicted them to win the division. Like I said earlier in the video, I think it's Toronto and Montreal, and then kind of everybody else below those teams. I would be surprised if a team other than Toronto or Montreal win the North Division at this point. So that is pretty much going to do it for this video. I think I've went over everything that I wanted to touch on. Like I said at the start of the video, be sure to let me know which team you guys want me to talk about next, and if you enjoyed this video, let me know if you want to see more like this in the future. And also, I'm very curious to hear your guys' thoughts on the Canadiens, so be sure to get down there in the comment section. Let me know your thoughts on everything to do with this team up until this point in the season. Which players have really surprised you? Maybe is there some players that disappointed you so far? Is there any of the players that are on a ridiculous pace right now that you think could keep it up for the entire season maybe? Like I said, I don't really think Toffoli's going to win the Rocket Richard, but I mean, we've seen crazier things happen. And lastly, do you guys think the Montreal Canadiens are legit Stanley Cup contenders. I gave you my thoughts. I still think we should be careful and not label them that after just 10 games, but I'm still interested to hear what you guys think. If you guys did enjoy today's video, please be sure to leave it a like. That is the best way to show your support, and most importantly, if this is your first time on the channel and you want to see more NHL content just like this, be sure to hit that subscribe button, and I will talk to you all in the next video.